Imagine waking up this morning with no grocery store nearby, no refrigerator, no kitchen, no packaged food, no crops growing in a field, nothing. Just you, the wild land around you, and the desperate need to eat something before the sun goes down. What would you do? Most of us would have absolutely no idea. And honestly, that's a terrifying thought. Because the truth is, for the vast majority of human history, that was everyday life. Every single day was a battle to find food. Not order it, not buy it. Find it, hunt it, dig it up, fight for it. We tend to think of ancient humans as primitive, simple, maybe even a little helpless. But what scientists have discovered about what our ancestors actually ate before farming existed will completely change the way you see them, and maybe even the way you see yourself. Because the story of what ancient humans ate is not just a story about food. It's a story about intelligence, creativity, survival instinct, and a deep biological connection we still carry inside us today. So let's go back, way back, before rice paddies and wheat fields, before bread and butter, before agriculture changed everything around 12,000 years ago. Let's find out what ancient humans actually ate and how they figured it out. For roughly 2 to 3 million years, human beings lived as hunter-gatherers. That means no farming, no domesticated animals for food, no controlled food supply of any kind. Just nature, raw and unfiltered. And here's something that might surprise you. Hunter-gatherers were not always on the edge of starvation. Many anthropologists who have studied modern hunter-gatherer communities, groups that still live close to the way ancient humans lived, found something unexpected. These people often had more variety in their diet than most people eating a modern Western diet today. Think about that for a second. Ancient humans with no tools beyond stone and bone were somehow eating a more diverse range of foods than billions of people in the 21st century. So what exactly were they eating? Let's start with meat, because when most people imagine early humans, they picture hunters chasing massive animals across open plains. And while that image has some truth to it, the reality is far more complicated and far more interesting. Yes, ancient humans hunted. Evidence from archaeological sites around the world shows that early humans consumed large animals like mammoths, bison, wild horses, deer, and elk. Stone-tipped spears, carved bones, and ancient fire pits all tell the same story. Meat was a critical part of the early human diet. But here's where it gets really interesting. Early humans were not always the hunters. Sometimes they were the scavengers. Before humans developed the tools and coordination to take down large prey consistently, many anthropologists believe early hominins, our very ancient ancestors, often scavenged carcasses left behind by large predators like lions and saber-toothed cats. They would rush in after the kill, crack open the bones with stone tools, and extract the rich, fatty marrow hidden inside. Bone marrow is extraordinarily high in calories and nutrients. It's dense with fat, protein, and vital minerals. For a creature surviving on whatever it could find, bone marrow was like hitting a biological jackpot. And those stone tools? The ability to crack bones open was not accidental. It was a learned behavior, a technology. Ancient humans were innovating for food long before farming was ever a concept. But meat alone could not sustain a population. Hunting was unpredictable. Animals were fast, dangerous, and sometimes scarce. So ancient humans turned to something far more reliable: plants. This is the part of the ancient diet that most people dramatically underestimate. Plant foods, roots, tubers, fruits, berries, nuts, seeds, leaves, and fungi likely made up a significant portion of the ancient human diet. And in many hunter-gatherer groups, plants may have contributed more calories than meat on a daily basis. Think about roots and tubers specifically. Wild versions of starchy underground vegetables grew in many parts of Africa, Asia, and Europe. Ancient humans learned, over generations of trial and error, which roots were safe to eat, which ones were poisonous, and critically, which ones became edible after being cooked over fire. Fire changes everything when it comes to food. Cooking breaks down tough plant fibers. It neutralizes certain toxins. It makes starches digestible. And it dramatically increases the number of calories the body can extract from the same amount of food. Some researchers believe that the control of fire and the discovery of cooking was one of the most transformative events in human evolutionary history. Not just for survival, but for brain development. A cooked diet provides more energy, and that extra energy may have directly fueled the expansion of the human brain over hundreds of thousands of years. So every time you cook your food today, you are performing one of the oldest and most revolutionary acts in human history. Now let's talk about fruits and berries. Wild fruits were a prized discovery for ancient humans, sweet, energy-dense, and packed with vitamins and antioxidants. But wild fruits were nothing like the large, sweet, seedless fruits we find in supermarkets today. Ancient berries were small, often bitter, and highly seasonal. Ancient humans had to know exactly where to find them and exactly when they would be ripe. This knowledge, where the best berry bushes grew, when the wild plums would ripen, which valleys had the richest plant diversity, was passed down from generation to generation. It was a form of ancient wisdom, an oral library of survival knowledge that kept communities alive. Nuts and seeds were another vital food source. Walnuts, hazelnuts, pine nuts, and various wild seeds provided ancient humans with essential fats, proteins, and calories. And unlike fruits that spoil quickly, nuts could be stored and carried. They were a portable, durable food source in a world without refrigeration. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Ancient humans didn't just eat what was obvious. They pushed boundaries. They experimented. And sometimes they discovered food sources that seem completely unexpected to us today. Insects, for example. Insects are incredibly rich in protein, fat, and essential nutrients. And there is strong evidence that early humans consumed insects regularly. Grubs, larvae, termites, beetles, and more. Many modern hunter-gatherer communities around the world still eat insects as a core part of their diet. And when you look at the nutritional profile of certain insects, it rivals or even surpasses many meats in terms of protein quality and nutrient density. It might seem strange or even disgusting by modern standards, but to an ancient human trying to survive, a handful of protein-rich grubs found under tree bark was an incredible find. That tells you something important about our ancestors. They were not picky, they were adaptive. They were willing to eat what the environment provided, and they were smart enough to recognize value in food sources that required creativity to find. Shellfish and seafood also played a significant and often underappreciated role in the ancient human diet. Archaeological sites along ancient coastlines reveal massive piles of discarded shellfish shells, evidence that ancient humans consumed enormous quantities of clams, mussels, oysters, and other shellfish. Shellfish are easy to collect, require no complex hunting skill, and are exceptionally nutrient-dense. They are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, iodine, and other minerals critical for brain function. Some researchers have proposed that coastal access to shellfish and seafood may have been one of the key nutritional drivers behind human cognitive development. In other words, eating seafood may have literally helped make us smarter. And then there's honey. Oh, honey. Ancient humans absolutely loved honey. Evidence of honey consumption by our ancestors goes back hundreds of thousands of years. Cave paintings in parts of Africa and Europe depict figures climbing to reach beehives. Ancient humans would brave stings from entire bee colonies to get to the sweet reward inside. Honey is pure concentrated energy. In a world where calorie scarcity was a constant threat, finding a beehive full of honey was like discovering a treasure. And the beeswax, larvae inside the hive, and bee pollen were all consumed as well, each adding nutritional value. This relationship between early humans and bees is one of the most fascinating and ancient food stories we know of. Long before anyone ever thought to keep bees in hives, humans were raiding wild colonies, with nothing but fire and determination. Now, you might be wondering, how did ancient humans know what was safe to eat? How did they figure out which mushrooms were deadly and which were nutritious? Which berries were poisonous and which were sweet? Which roots would make them sick and which would provide energy? The honest answer is, sometimes they didn't know, and people died finding out. Early human food knowledge was built through painful, sometimes fatal trial and error. Over many generations, communities accumulated knowledge about their local food environment. Elders passed this knowledge to the young. Mistakes were remembered. Successful food sources were celebrated and shared. This is, in a very real sense, the earliest form of science. Observation, testing, memory, communication of results. Ancient humans were running informal experiments on their food supply for millions of years before anyone wrote down a single word. And the sophistication of this knowledge is genuinely remarkable. Archaeological evidence shows that ancient humans in different parts of the world developed regional specializations. Coastal populations became expert seafood foragers. Forest populations mastered the identification of edible fungi and berries. Plains populations became skilled large-game hunters. Desert populations learned to extract moisture and nutrition from unlikely sources. These were not random, desperate creatures stumbling through survival. They were specialized, intelligent, adaptive communities with deep expertise in their local environments. Let's also talk about something that rarely gets discussed when people think about ancient diets: diversity. Modern food scientists and nutritionists increasingly recognize that ancient hunter-gatherers likely consumed an extraordinarily diverse range of plant and animal foods. Some estimates suggest that hunter-gatherer groups may have consumed between 50 and 100 different plant species regularly throughout the year. Compare that to a typical modern diet, which often relies on fewer than 20 staple foods. What does that mean biologically? It means ancient humans were feeding their gut microbiome, the community of bacteria and organisms living in the digestive system, an incredibly wide variety of fibers, nutrients, and plant compounds. And scientists today believe that a diverse gut microbiome is one of the most important foundations of overall health, immune function, and even mental well-being. In chasing our ancient food history, we may actually be uncovering the biological blueprint for what human bodies were designed to thrive on. That's a profound thought. Our bodies spent millions of years being shaped by a highly varied plant and animal diet. And in just 12,000 years of agriculture, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, that diet has changed almost beyond recognition, which might explain why so many modern humans struggle with the foods they eat. Our biology is still in many ways calibrated for a world that no longer exists. There's one more thing worth understanding about ancient food. It wasn't just about survival. Food was social, it was cultural, it was communal. When ancient humans made a successful hunt, the animal was shared across the group. Gathering plants was often done in groups, not alone. Meals were eaten together around fires. The preparation and sharing of food built social bonds, established trust, and created community identity. Food was not just fuel, it was the foundation of human connection. That instinct still lives in us today. Think about why family dinners feel important. Why sharing a meal with someone you love feels different from eating alone. Why we celebrate with food at every major milestone, birthdays, weddings, funerals, festivals. The deep social meaning of food is ancient, it's woven into what we are. And it all started with a group of humans, hundreds of thousands of years ago, sitting around a fire, sharing whatever they had managed to find or hunt that day, grateful to eat together and face another morning. So what does all of this mean for you? It means that the next time you feel drawn to a wide variety of foods, you're responding to something ancient. The next time you feel deeply satisfied after a shared meal with people you care about, that satisfaction runs deeper than you might realize. It touches something in you that is millions of years old. Our ancestors were not primitive, they were extraordinary. They survived on wit, knowledge, cooperation, and an intimate understanding of the natural world. They built a relationship with food that sustained the human species through ice ages, migrations, predators, and environmental change. And here we are, their descendants, still eating, still gathering around tables, still sharing food as a way of saying, I see you, I'm with you, we're in this together. So next time you sit down to eat, take a second to think about the unbelievable chain of human intelligence, adaptation, and survival that brought food to your plate. It's a longer story than most people ever stop to appreciate. If you found this journey through ancient human history as fascinating as I did, drop a comment below. What surprised you the most? Was it the insects? The honey? The fact that ancient humans may have eaten more diverse foods than we do today? And if you want to keep exploring the hidden science and stories behind human behavior and history, make sure you subscribe. There's so much more to uncover, and we're just getting started.